Hello, everybody. Welcome to the very first podcast of Simplifying Real Estate, a monthly podcast series by RSU Return. I'm your host, Rekha. In this series, we will be talking to industry experts and seasoned developers to find out what it takes to be successful in this very dynamic field of real estate. Today, as our first guest, we are very honored and privileged to have Navin Makhija, the Managing Director of the Wadhwa Group, Mumbai's leading and trusted names in real estate companies. As the driving force behind the Wadhwa Group, Navin brings in a wealth of experience and knowledge. He is a learner at heart, has attended several international programs from leading business schools like the ISB, the London School of Business, and Harvard University. On his personal front, he loves cricket, he's a fitness enthusiast, and runs marathons across the globe. Thank you, Navin, for being our guest. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Rekha.
Yes, let's dive straight in. Let's start from the beginning. How did you become a real estate entrepreneur? Tell me about your early days.
So early days, the actual honest story is never thought to be in real estate. Never had a dream also that I would be in real estate. As you mentioned, it happened by chance. Mr. Wadhwa, who is so my career in real estate has only been with the Wadhwa Group, and now I'm a part of the family as well. So way back in 2001, Mr. Wadhwa and I met up for a wedding in Hyderabad. And that's the time we discussed. We were two people from Bombay, and he wanted to know what I do. And I was still studying in college. So he asked me, "What do you do?" So I said, "I've just completed my graduation." And he said, "Why don't you come over and work with me?" And I had no idea about real estate. So there were two big incentives for me to choose to work with him. I was always in retail. Even when I was studying in college, I was working for retail firms where you had to work on weekends. And the biggest two reasons why I chose Mr. Wadhwa was because my old home and office was like 2 minutes away, so there was no travel. And second, because it was an office, I had the weekends off, which would mean that I could focus on my cricket. So I said, this is a good opportunity to be close to home and at the same time focus on my cricket, because I was an avid cricketer, which was not possible when I was doing retail. I said, let me try it for 3-6 months and then see how it goes. My results were also not out of my college. I just finished exams and I was there. So I took that up. I was put in different sectors of real estate, from purchase to planning to execution to sales to marketing. In a very small way, the organization was a very family, close-knit running. So I could learn a lot. In those 6 months of my journey, I learned a lot. I met a lot of people. Everybody was willing to teach. People way back in 2000 were really wanting to teach a young kid and wanting to see whether they can make a difference in terms of teaching me. So I actually had good teachers all my life. And in 6 months, I learned a lot. And then I decided real estate is not my cup of tea, so I should not continue with it. Then Mr. Wadhwa said, "Okay, what is the part of real estate you liked?" So I said, "I like the sales and marketing piece, and I don't understand construction. I don't understand planning and execution." So he said, "Okay, then you only focus on that." And that's the time when the group had a project as Raghulila, Kandivli. There was a mall which had come up. So he said, "You be one single point of contact, and you run that project. And now that you see the broker network that we have today, like the Guardians, the Anarocks of the world, the Xanadus of the world, at that point of time, there was this 10 brokers who came together, who formed a team to market Raghulila Kandivali as a sale model. So way back in 2001 is when they formed this company. I think the name was Krishna Marketing at that point of time. So they would coordinate with me, and that's when I learned a lot. I made a lot of friends. I made friends for life there, and even till date, I am in touch with all of them because I learned a lot. And that's where my journey started. And I did that for 2 years. And while I was doing that, I learned the other parts of the business like execution. I learned planning. I heard customers. I heard brokers. I was like a sponge. I was listening to everything. And that's when I learned. And in 2003, 4, the markets also got way better. We bought a piece of land in Goregaon by the name of Anmol. So from handling in 2001, just the sales part of Kandivali, of the Raghuleela Mall. Then in Goregaon, I learned how to spend time on planning, spend time on construction, spend time on various aspects of business. And by 2004-5, I had a great idea of how the business operations were running. And that's about it. And ever since, there's no looking back. I mean, God's been kind. God has always supported me in any or every form. Whenever I need some guidance, there's somebody available, and that's my journey, and that's where I've just been learning, and even till date, I think I'm learning a lot, and kind of try to implement whatever I've learned from various people, and try to take it forward.
How wonderful. Thank you for sharing that journey with us. But I want to understand, is Raghuleela your pet project? Is it your, something which is very dear to your heart, or is there any other project that also, over the time that you've handled?
So, what it's like your child. You don't choose between your children. When you conceive a project, and then you see it coming up, and then when you see it completed, it's like your child. You really don't choose that this is. Some are better because you learn through them. Some projects give you a little bit of more pain. So once they are completed, you kind of feel nice. So it's very difficult for me to choose what is my pet project. But I can say there are some projects where I've learned more. I can say there are some projects which have just gone very smoothly. There are some projects which have taught us different things. And at the end, once they get completed and they are ready and people live and people appreciate, they all add a smile to your face. So it will be very wrong on my part to say that this. So like I'll give you an example. Like there's a project W54, which is in Matunga. I think that's a very good project from an angle of openness. It kind of gives me that luxury is not something which is about you putting in marbles and putting in the home automation or giving amenities. I think the biggest amenity for that project is the open space that it offers. So if you ask me, Navin, which is a good project where you think it's close to nature, so I will choose that over a lot of other projects. If you ask me what is a very iconic project where the elevation stands out, then I'll use Capital, which is a commercial project. So each project has its own base and own reasons for me choosing that over the other.
I'm sure. And in Bombay, I'm just thinking about Matunga. That's where I did my schooling in. Talk about openness there. It's a luxury by itself.
Absolutely.
Right. So, you talked about every project being your own child, but, some children are difficult. Some children, give you that little bit of pain and a lot of learnings that come in. Would you like to share some wonderful, some learning that as a real estate developer, that some takeaway that you would want our audience to walk away with?
So, what over my 17, 18 years of journey, I have come to realize that, less is more, and when you try to do a lot of projects, and if you try to do too many things, the quality, the overall offering goes for a toss, or it doesn't come up to the extent what it should. So to give you an example, like our project in Panvel, which is a township. It's a completely different animal as compared to any other project that we do. The way we think for that project is completely different. So there's a lot of learning curve there. You just don't have to think about the product. You have to think about the livability quotient. You have to think about how people are going to live there over time. What are the facilities, amenities? Not that what you provide as amenities, but what about the schools, the colleges, the hospital? It's a township. You have to think like a city. You have to think about how do you get a city close to that project. You spoke about Matunga because you live in Matunga. There again, we had a choice of over-cluttering the design. We decided that, we may make a building which has close to, we could have chosen to make a building with 200 to 50 apartments and clutter that side with higher density. We chose that, okay, there are two ways of going ahead. One is cluttering it and maximizing your top line. But while maximizing your top line, you would compromise on the openness that you offer, the kind of timeline it will take to complete the project versus you build less and maximize your return by completing it quicker and charging a premium to people. And that's what we did. So each project actually helps you. No two projects are the same. No two locations are the same. You can choose, like, to give you, this morning I was thinking there's a project that we are evaluating. Last 1 month, my team has made the plans. We are working on the last pieces of fitting the room sizes and ensuring that there's least wastage and passages. I just thought that why not look at that location as a commercial development? That's a completely different thought. So each project teaches you, each project can be looked at differently. And we also learn a lot from, now we are very much in the redevelopment space. There are a lot of projects that you do and a lot of projects that you lose out on because the other developer has done a great job. I actually go back and look at what did that other developer do as compared to what we did and kind of pick up from those learnings as to, okay, this is how they think, this is how we think, and we learn. So learning is the biggest thing which keeps us going. And coming back to your question as to, what is, how do you choose and how do you do? I think, there's a lot of research available, there's a lot of paper available, and there's a lot of history. And today with this digital age, to know what's happening in each location is very easy. But how do you differentiate your product? Today, as you mentioned, Bombay is a city of clutter. It's a city where people are stressed, people are tired by the end of the day. Overachievement is something that people strive to do. How do you ensure that when the person comes home, he's actually home and surrounded with nature, surrounded with fresh air, surrounded with good height, light, and air? I mean, we think about all of getting Mother Nature into the house. So all our design principles are kept in mind, keeping in these principles in mind, that don't try to take away the nature element from anyone's life. Try getting nature as much as possible. So whether we do an affordable housing project or whether we do a very high-end residential building or even a commercial building, our focus across all projects has to be that it is close to Mother Nature. Everything which is close to nature will excite us, will be a part of our design, will be a part of our offering to the customers. And I think people appreciate it. If you look at it, we see that close to 30% of our buyers are buyers who bought in the past. Either they've bought or they've stayed in those apartments as tenants, or their families have bought and the second generation is buying. So people understand when they live into apartments, they understand what do we offer compared to what others offer.
Wonderful, wonderful. How do you think, I mean, you were talking about how, your group actually takes care of bringing in the nature element, creating that, especially well-being has become such an important aspect post the pandemic. People are realizing that it is so important. that people wind down at the end of the day. And, your group has been always kind of mindful about that. I wanted to understand from you as how do you think the customer preferences are changing? It's changing dynamically. I mean, you have the seniors, you have the Gen Z, you have the millennials. At the same time, technology is coming in. Like there are smart homes. The future of homes are very, very different. What is your thoughts around it, and how do you think a developer should adapt and adjust to be, a market player or market leader?
So, this discussion we keep having, and I think, technology is always evolving.
Yes.
And, we have to adjust to the customer's requirement rather than expecting the customer to adjust to what we feel is correct. So what we do, and I think we've found a kind of a balance in that. If you have a family of, let's say, 6 people staying in an apartment, you have the parents, you have the kids, and let's say you have the kids getting married and will have grandkids. So we've seen, including in my house, that my kid is something who's very technology savvy. He would like everything on his iPad or mobile phone. But I am like little bit there, little bit conventional. We don't stay with our grandparents, but let's say if I had to think of my parents living with me, they'll be absolutely not okay. So when it comes to smart home, I think it has to be working conventionally as well and should work with the gadgets as well. And we should not try to overkill it by offering too much, where the customer goes mad, the senior citizen or the middle age. And at the same time, the younger generation is happy that they have a lot on their touchpads to control. So what we've been doing, I'll give you an example, like in our luxury projects, we give both and they both work together. So people who are used to using the switch are using the switch. People who want it on their iPads or the touchpads have it up there. So it's like buying peace for both of them. We've tried doing one and not the other, and we've realized we've kept one of them unsatisfied. And also that's a very small example at what we do at home. But even in the amenities nowadays, people say we've provided a gym. Now, if you look at a project where you provide a gym, there are hardly equipments which a senior citizen can use. General developers will provide a gym which is used by everybody. But there are special equipments which come for senior citizens. So in our gym, we create a senior citizen column, which are with senior citizen equipments. What it does is it takes care of them. It takes care of their needs. Along with that, we create a multi-purpose room within the gym where, you can call in for a trainer, you can have your dance classes, you can have your yoga classes, you can have everything. So, the gym is trying to take care of all age groups. So we try and provide for all age groups. Obviously, we don't have the luxury of providing all of this in all projects because the size of the project determines what one can offer. But in larger layouts and we try to provide everything possible for all age groups. Our amenities are not just throw and expect everyone and anyone to use. We think of the toddler. There has to be something specifically for them. There is something for the youth, something for the middle age, something for the senior citizen. We try and provide something. And we also learn over time. We've provided something in one project. We go back and see after 2 years, are people using it? We talk to them. They say, yes, this is something which we love it. This is something which we don't use. You provide, we don't use it. Because eventually, we have to offer what people want rather than saying that, boss, this is working internationally, you please use it. It doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So we've consciously taken a call of doing a lot of research, talking to a lot of customers, see the amenities. As of now, we provide a gym. But once we've sold, and generally, fortunately, we are always able to sell a lot of our projects before time. We actually talk to them. Okay, we're providing a gym. This is what we're providing. Suggestions are welcome. We hear the suggestions. Not obviously we can address to all suggestions, but we hear to the customer because eventually they are the users. So it's a lot of research, it's a lot of discussion, it's a lot of talking to all age groups. It is a lot of seeing what's working in other projects. We learn from other projects. We've seen a lot of projects where people have worked on a lot of things, and we've seen certain things work, certain things don't work. What works, just take it. Like to give you an example, pickleball. This is a big sport which has picked up in the last 2 to 3 years. We've seen not the toddlers, but let's say from the 8 years to the 80 years, people playing pickleball. It's all age group. We have now started providing pickleballs in all our projects wherever possible. Though it's not a commitment, but we've seen that all age groups are happy. It's not a very fast sport, but it's not even a very slow sport. It's easy to pick up. It's easy to learn. So we've started providing pickleball courts in all our projects. So we kind of adapt, we learn, and we provide. Eventually, we have to keep every person in the family happy.
Oh, so well said. It reminds me about, equity and equality, because equity is like providing shoes for every employee. Equality is providing a shoe that fits, So thank you for sharing. It was really wonderful listening to you. I would like to understand. So, so many different needs, the changing needs of the market, the changing needs of the consumer. What are some of the challenges that are being faced by the real estate developers now?
So, Bob, I think it's a very generic question. The answer is that it's a very simple answer. It's not very complicated. Keep it simple. If you keep it simple, there is a buyer. There is a market which is willing to buy what you offer. When you complicate it, when you try to offer something which is complicated. When I say complicated, let me give you an example. People have burned their hands in real estate. Okay. Now with RERA coming in, with the number of developers shrinking, the confidence of buyer is very high. Okay. But at the same time, he is not looking at buying into lullaby stories. Saying that I'm going to come up with a 50-story building, I'm going to come up with all these amenities. He is looking at a home. He's looking at a workable home. He's looking at amenities which work. He's looking at a project which can be delivered in time. He's looking at a project which is not too much dependent on third party like government, that the FSI will come in and this will come in and that will come in and then a project will get. If you keep it simple, straight, where you have all your rules in place, your progress of the construction is very fast. You have a financial closure. RERA basically lets the customer knows where the project stands in terms of ranking, and a little bit of due diligence the customer does, and he knows, okay, this project is going smooth, this project has a good plan, this project has good amenities, it's going as per schedule, and the developer has been able to deliver a lot of other projects. There are buyers. So keep it simple. Don't try to do 10 projects at one time. There was a learning. People say once you sell a project, once you've booked, let's say you have a project which has 100 apartments and you book 68 projects, developers tend to move to the new project. In fact, once you've sold at initial stage, that's where your responsibility starts. It doesn't end. That's when you have third party committing into buying into you. That's when you actually need to spend more time and get the project off the ground, get it to a level, and then move on to the project. People move from one project to the other basis the amount of quantum of sale they have done. It should not be that way. It should be after the project has reached a particular level of construction, of approvals, of financial closure, of involvement of the developer required. Then we should look at other projects. I'm not saying one project at a time, but as per your scale, one can do 10 at a time, one can do 5 at a time. But generally, people, what they do is once it is sold, so let's move to the other. And then this project, somewhere or the other, gets suffered, and they start pulling out money from this project to the other project. That's the problem generally real estate developers face. But if your project is moving fine, if your project is as per schedule, there are buyers, there are enough and more buyers. People have faith. People like good, simple plans. People want a house. And people want a home, people want amenities. The demands of amenities are very high. But But that's the market. You have to adopt to that and you have to offer that. And people are willing to pay you for that. So I think keeping it simple, keeping it by the book really works. And it does work. And then you can do more volume.
Sure. You also have been one of the early adopters of RSU Return Services.
Yes.
How has been your experience with us?
So to be honest with you, RSU Return, I know Srini beforehand, and he had mentioned about it. I said, Srini, you started something, I'm more than happy to help. But over the years, we've matured. The relationship has matured, and I think it benefits. Markets are never going to be stable. They will have their ups and downs. And when you have a partner like Uniturn, RSU Return, which can offer you quick material, it can offer you payments to contractors suppliers on time, that helps you to negotiate with the suppliers better because they are assured of their payments on time. They are assured about repeat businesses. It kinds of oils the system. It helps you to achieve a lot of things. And because RSU Return is doing it for multiple developers, they are able to negotiate great prices with suppliers. That also helps us. The economy of scale helps. I think it's a good partnership. It's an extended arm for us, and we use it as if it's just an extended arm, and we are very happy with it. It also helps in planning a project a little differently. There are some projects which take time to kick off initially. Then, if you have somebody who's able to put their money for putting up let's say up to plinth. Let's say I think the project needs to come up to plinth, and I don't want to borrow from my lender. My lender's CP is that he will start funding after reaching plinth or after getting all approvals. There, rather than waiting to get all approvals, and I want to start the project because the rains are going to hit it, there is where I can use RSU Return Services, was fund me till the plinth, and then my banking fund is available, my approvals have come in, and things move forward. So I think it's a good bridge that is available, and they are practical people, and I think they understand and they have the economies of scale for us. So it's working great. It's been 2 years, I think we've been using them, and we've not had any hiccups as such.
Thank you for that wonderful feedback. Just on your personal side, how do you unwind? I mean, you are a busy man. How do you unwind? What are your hobbies?
I unwind every day. I have my mornings. As you mentioned, I'm a runner.
Yes.
I'm an Ironman, so I keep doing fancy stuff. I keep running, I keep cycling, I keep swimming. Wow. And these 3 things I do almost every day in the morning. And it just unwinds me. I'm without my phone and I'm just in my Zen space, and I do it every day. If I don't do it, I feel something is missing. My day doesn't start well. And that is my time. So morning 5 to 7:38 is my time. I'm not available to anyone.
That's so wonderful. So you're away from your phone as well, completely?
Absolutely. I don't take my phone with me.
That's a rarity right now, but thanks for sharing that, because it also shows all of us, or that anybody can actually make that switch off and consciously.
No, in fact, it's actually switched on. What happens is, because I'm not with my phone, all what I have done in yesterday, let's say today, I had discussed there are certain things which I have to decide, certain things I have to take calls on. Everything between that 5 to 7:30 in my subconscious mind comes. I think about it. I don't get distracted, and I take faster, quicker, more meaningful decisions, and I just come here and I execute. So I get that it's actually not switched off, it's switched on, where the mind is consciously working on in a very productive way. And I think it's the best time of my day where I'm to myself, and as well thinking about what's the right step for that particular problem that I need to. Like I just mentioned, today morning, I thought, why not look at commercial? Not necessarily the right decision, but thinking it in a different perspective only helps to come up in a different manner.
That's really wonderful to hear. Comes to the last question. What do you think is the future of real estate? Where is it heading? How is it all looking?
So, my exposure is within Maharashtra, so I'll keep it within Maharashtra. I think the number of developers will keep reducing. The want of money in each project will keep increasing. The confidence of buyers will be very, very high. Projects will sell very well at the initial stage also, and I think I would say that people should look at to their respective scale, not try and take very complicated project, because the risk versus reward is absolutely not in the same space where it should be. The risks are very high. The rewards available against each project are only diminishing, because you have a lot of developers who are willing to work at lower margins and wanting to put in more money in each project. So try not to take too complicated projects. Try and keep. You can take larger scale projects, but less the complication, the faster the project gets delivered, the faster it gets completed, the faster people believe in it, the faster you are able to complete it, make your money, and move on. The minute you take too many complex projects, and when I say complex, that when you're dependent on a lot of other people's performances for the development of your project, or trying to complicate it by making it too tall, or trying to complicate it by putting too many restrictions on the development, trying to over-consume the FSI, making it over-dense. Because people, you spoke about amenity. One of the biggest things people look at, that how many people are going to live in that complex. I may get the best food, I may get the best gym, I may get the best A, B, C, D. But the buyer is going to look at it, boss, how many people are going to use this? Is this something exclusive to 100 people, or is this exclusive to 500 families? Then it's no longer exclusive. So, the density also, I think the lesser the density, the larger the acceptance. You may make little luxurious flats. Each location is different. Like in an affordable housing, you will have higher density. I understand. But what I'm trying to say, in the normal market, that in the non-affordable space, keep it simple, make good buildings, focus on your planning rather than your elevation. Look at projects where maintenances are low, because you as a developer will make it. People at the end of the day have to maintain it. Are they going to maintain it? Are they going to be able to keep the building as fresh and as beautiful as you have done it 10 years from now? These questions, if you take care, I think there's a big belief, and the customer is willing to buy your product and be a part of your journey.
Thank you so much. I mean, I think it was a very earnest talk. So thank you for sharing your insights and views with us. We are, for me, and I think for the audience, the biggest takeaway from this conversation has been less is more, and keep it simple. I think whether it comes to your professional journey or personal, I think the advice is that, if I can summarize. So thank you, Navin, for being our guest.
Thank you.
And thank you, audience, for listening into us. And if you would like to listen to more, please do not forget to like and subscribe our channel.